gi players win more than no gi guys? Do you want to understand why? Alright, my name is Marcelo. I'm black belt from Gracie Barra in Canada, and in this video I will explain in more details why I believe gi players win more than no gi guys in the no gi setup. And if you like this kind of video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Okay, so before I explain why I believe the gi players win more than no gi guys, I'd rather give a bit more context. So if we all can agree that ADCC is the most prestigious venue for grapplers around the world to challenge their skills and to showcase which has the best technique, which has the best game. If you analyze ADCC, it's not like a regular jiu-jitsu tournament. It's more like a submission wrestling kind of thing, right? You cannot pull guard at the beginning. There are certain rules, and the format's quite different from a regular jiu-jitsu tournament. And that leads to a different training as well. Like the athletes need to train accordingly to those rules. And what we see over and over again is the supremacy of the gi players of jiu-jitsu winning the most prestigious grappling tournament in the world. How many champions do you know of that were able to win the open class of the ADCC since the first year? Most of them are jiu-jitsu guys that train on the gi. So for me, if you have a venue where grapplers from all over the world can compete and try to prove their supremacy, I think it's a real good statement about the training, the kind of training that prevails. And in this case is jiu-jitsu with the gi. Like, I'm not saying that like they don't train with no gi, they don't train according to the rules. Of course they do, but most of the time they prioritize the gi. When it gets really close to the camp for the ADCC or for another kind of no gi setup, yes, they need to adjust their training, and the routine changes quite a lot. So the track record of the ADCC, for me, it's a very strong argument in pro of the gi players. And that being said, like I believe the reason why jiu-jitsu with the gi gives a bit of an edge to the grappling challenge, any kind of grappling challenge, it's because the jiu-jitsu with the gi, the gi itself, it's an element that allows for a lot of it gives more complexity to the game, let's say. And because it gives more complexity, people need to study a little deeper and spend more time like testing little things, some details that like you can adjust here and there. And that forces the athletes to think a little more about the techniques, the details that entail those movements, you know, like baby steps. So that's what I believe makes a huge difference. And also you could like perhaps consider the speed of a gi fight versus a no gi fight, right? With the gi, it's easier to stall the fight. So it's easier to slow down and kind of like study pieces of it. In the no gi, it's more chaotic. It's harder to stall the fight. Another very important aspect that I find that it's a huge advantage for the gi players is like if you think about the roots of jiu-jitsu, right? They start with the Gracie family. They all train most of the time on the gi. So but why that's important? Because let's take Gordon Ryan, for example, right? This is the top name, top of my mind, top of your mind probably in the no gi environment. And where does he train? He trains at Renzo Gracie Academy. So it's still like his roots, and most of his training partners, they are related to the jiu-jitsu and the gi. Like John Danaher teaches jiu-jitsu in the gi as well. It's not only no gi. So it's hard to isolate yourself, even Gordon Ryan, from the gi, right? And how many Gordon Ryans do you know? Like how many people were able to accomplish what he did just training focus like on the no gi? So I think it's a question that you should ask yourself, like how many more people that are training only no gi can succeed on ADCC or be a top, a world-class athlete. There's very few. And when we are talking about the no gi setup, we are talking about most cases a very different format, different rule sets. And I cannot ignore the impact of the rules on the way people train, on the way people develop new techniques. It makes a huge difference. Just to give an example, like if you only train the gi and you develop a game to compete on, let's say, IBJJF, the biggest organization for jiu-jitsu competition in the world, right? So if you only train for IBJJF, the time that you sign up, you register for a no gi setup, they allows you to do a knee rip. You haven't practiced those kind of entries, those techniques, so you're gonna be behind. So no doubt that the rule set has a major impact on the way you train, on the way you're gonna perform. So there is a time that you will have to start changing your training to be able to apply those techniques that are allowed in the specific tournament, so you can at least defend or attack as well. And when I say that gi players win more than no gi, I'm not saying that you should not train a no gi. I think it's very important to train no gi. I think it complements the training on the gi. You learn more skills, more techniques, so it, no doubt is good for you. I totally encourage my students, and I train myself more no gi nowadays than I used to, because I understand the importance. Like if you talk about leg attacks, like no gi is a better format to train leg attacks. So it's a very important piece of the game, because we are talking about leg attacks. You have many options. Like you talk about there's a quote that it's 50% of your body that you cannot neglect, right? So it's very important. In short, I believe training no gi will complement your skills as a grappler. So you should train no gi, but if you have to prioritize, I would suggest to allocate more time, no doubt, for the gi, and then eventually you start increasing more the time that you have for the no gi, or as you please, of course, if it's a hobby. But if you're thinking about a self-defense, I believe gi is a more realistic training for you than no gi. But please let me know what you think. I want to hear. I appreciate different opinions, so I also have a chance to learn something new. So I really believe that can give you a new perspective about the grappling game, and see you guys on the next videos.